Yo, what's up guys? Today I wanted to share with you 5 secrets that a lot of industry producers don't tell you. Some of these tips might be a little controversial, but this is just based on my time spent with people in the actual hip-hop industry, people who are getting placements, people who are actually working with big artists every day. There's a lot of stuff that people overcomplicate. I wanted to break down some of the myths that a lot of people get caught up on when they're producing music. This video might be a little bit controversial for some people. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me. And when I say this stuff, it doesn't mean that it's right 100% of the time. Some producers might do different shit. Not every single person is going to produce the same way, but this is just stuff that I've learned from my personal experience. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing a lot of industry producers don't talk about is that they do not worry about mixing near as much as you do. A lot of you, I'm sure, spend a ton of time on your mix, try to EQ and compress every single sound, try to add effects to everything, spend a lot of time trying to tweak knobs and make every little thing perfect. But I can tell you from experience, most of the producers that I've worked with actually don't do this. They actually spend way more time making the actual beat itself rather than mixing. And as they're going, they'll adjust the volumes of all the sounds. So at the end, a lot of the time, people's mixers will actually look like this. Now, that's not to say you don't want to adjust things at the end. Like if your snare needs to be turned up, turn it up. But you'll eventually get to a place where your main focus is just adjusting the volume levels as you mix the beat. And then at the end, it'll already sound good. And another part of this tip is that most people are not actually putting EQ on a lot of sounds. So if you look at my mixer on pretty much all of these sounds, there's actually nothing on them. All I'm doing is adjusting the volume levels as I'm going in the channel rack itself. And then at the end, I link to the mixer and I'll do slight adjustments if I need to. But unless something is clashing in the low end, like oftentimes the melody might be clashing in the low end, you'll need to EQ out the lows. But besides that, you don't really need to sit there and tweak EQs all day and do a bunch of crazy EQ settings like you see a lot of people doing. It's just a waste of time, and a lot of the time it actually takes away from the mix more than it helps. The next tip I want to give y'all is that the secret to making your 808s sound good is just to make them really loud in the mix. And what I mean by this is just that they should be probably one of the loudest elements in the entire mix. If you look at the mixer, in this beat, the kick is actually the loudest element, but besides that, the 808 is the loudest thing. And if you do that, typically it's going to sound really good. So I'm going to play this beat real quick so you guys can hear, for example. So as you can see, the kick is the loudest thing. The rim shot is probably the second loudest thing, and I usually don't even turn up my rims this loud. This one could probably stand to go down a little bit. And the 808 is the third loudest thing. And we always want that 808 to be super loud. At the end of the mix, you can always pull it back if it seems like it's too much, but typically you want it louder than almost everything else in the mix. And another quick tip within that tip is that you don't necessarily have to worry about clipping, especially with your kick and 808. You can see the kick is clipping, and even if I make this 808 clip, it's not as big of a deal as people make it out to be. Clipping was a very bad thing on analog gear because the analog gear just couldn't handle it, but with DAWs, you don't have to worry about that issue as much. So just a quick note, and like I said, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but this is just something that I've found I've seen people do over and over again in the music industry. That's just what I've learned from my experience. The next tip I want to give y'all is that all you need on your master is either Fruity Soft Clipper, or you can use a plugin called K-Clip. That's another really good clipper, but you don't usually need to worry about using EQ, multiband compression, any of that stuff. If you're doing a final master, obviously that's a lot different, but when you're making beats for an artist to get on, you're sending them out a pre-mastered version. It doesn't need to have all those effects. You should be able to get your mix good enough on its own without doing anything on it. And the clipper is just to use to stop it from going over 0, and also to add a nice crunch to your mix, especially in trap. You hear this sound a lot, the sound of clipped 808s. So that's all you really need to worry about. And if you're a mastering engineer, like I said, this advice is not for you. This advice is for people who are making beats to send to artists. The next tip I want to give you is to keep your beats very, very simple. A lot of people that I see making beats will try to add like 50 sounds to their beat, and that is not needed. Usually all you need is your melody, an 808, a kick, a snare or a clap, some hi-hats, some open hats, and maybe 1 or 2 percussion, and that's all you need. You do not need to add like 1,000 sounds to your beats. I promise you, no artist is going to get on a beat that has a ton of sounds in it. It's just not good to sing or rap on. So definitely try to keep your beats a little bit more simple and get more out of your simple elements. If you can make your beats sound really, really good with only like 5 to 15 sounds, you're going to be in a really good place to get placements on your beats. And the last tip I want to give you is actually not a music production tip, but it's more about the music industry as a whole. The music industry is way more about who you know and how you network than how good your production is. That's not to say that you don't want to get really, really good at production. You want your beats to be fucking amazing, but it gets to a certain point where your beats are probably good enough and you probably just haven't met the right people yet. So you want to network with as many producers, managers, A&Rs, different artists, anybody that you can lock in with, become friends with, and your goal is not to use them to get things. Your goal is to provide them value and make them actually like you, so they just naturally want to help you out with your music career. Some people have 1,000 beats sitting on their hard drive that are never going to get used or seen because they're just not doing anything with them. So make sure you spend some time actually networking and meeting new people so you can eventually actually get artists on your beats and not just let them sit on your hard drive for the rest of your life. And one little bonus tip that a lot of people don't think about is that your old beats are brand new to somebody else. So that beat that you've heard 1,000 times and that's 2 years old could be an artist's favorite beat in your whole catalog. So don't let those old beats go to waste. Definitely still try to send them out, get them out into the world. Don't let your old beats go to waste because you really never know. All right, that's pretty much it for this video. I know a lot of these tips are pretty controversial, but like I said, this is just stuff that I've learned from my personal experiences. If you have a difference in opinion, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'm not going to argue with you because I know everybody produces music a different way and there's no one method to do every single thing. Anyways, make sure to download my free sample packs. The link is in the description. I have 25 plus free sample packs on my website. They're all super high quality and 100% free to use. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.